Good day to you. In the previous video that was based on the standard operating procedure for receiving and submitting manual receipt books, I've made mention to these forms that are at the back of the standard operating procedure document. Now it's very important that you take note what you need to do when it comes to these forms, because this is an addition to what you have normally done when receiving or submitting manual receipt books. There are three forms. The first form is the books that are issued or returned. So these are normally the books that would come from head office, and the line manager or a driver will come and fetch it. Right, so that is the one form. There's two scenarios. I'll explain what that means a bit later. Then there's a form called interbranch book transfers. I will also explain in another video what this is all about, but that is when you need to send your manual receipt books or any other book for that matter to another branch in your area. You need to keep track of that. So I will talk you through this. And then the last one is specifically for line managers. Please, line managers, make sure that you're also aware of this form. I will talk you through how and the purpose of this form, how to complete it and what is the purpose of this specific document. So let's get started with the first form that's on addendum A, that is called the PayPoint's book issued and returned form. Now I have completed, and as I said, there's already there's two scenarios when it comes to this form. All right, so listen carefully. The first scenario would be when a line manager comes to fetch the manual receipt books or any other books. All right, that's the one scenario. But then there's a scenario where a driver may come to fetch the books and then take it to a specific branch, for example, Burgersfort. Now this needs to be completed in two different ways. Let me explain the first one to you. So let's say, for example, I, Lindy Lucas, is the line manager. Now I am going to Tzaneen head office to go and fetch the manual receipt books. I will then go to head office and I will go to Maggie Masinge, who will issue these books to me at head office. Now what Maggie would normally do, she will have this form with her and she would have completed this first part of the form. In other words, she would have indicated which line is being represented, what is the receipt numbers, the from to receipt numbers of the specific receipt book. And here, I just use it as an example. Yours would look completely different. I just said, for example, here it's a manual receipt book where you receive the premiums, and then there's a manual receipt book for new joinings. And then Maggie would also include the names of the people who need to receive these books. So there's a Petshai and a Lebotame. All right? So now that I will receive these books from her. Once I've checked it and that I'm happy as line manager, remember I'm now the line manager, I'm happy that I received all the books that she has listed in here, I will then write in the date that I've received it, I will write my name as the line manager and I will sign. What's going to happen next is Maggie will then make a copy of this form. You as the line manager will then receive a copy of this form or the original one, it doesn't really matter. And she will file hers and you will now take, line manager will take this specific form and now go to the lines. All right. So now PayPoint has started, or just before PayPoint starts, you as the line manager will now hand these books to these people, to Petshai and Lebo in this example. Pete then needs to sign in this area that he did receive the book, and Lebo will also need to sign for her specific book. And then also write in the date that they took these books. So they took it now from me as the line manager. Now let's say PayPoint has now finished, PayPoint period is over. Now I, as the line manager, need to take these books in again. Now I will go to Piet and Lebo and I ask them, please give me back your books. I will write the date when I got them back, and Piet and Lebo needs to sign for the fact that they have handed it back to me as the line manager. The reason why we're doing this is so that everyone is covered whenever they hand a book back. Because let's say, for example, Lebo said, but I gave it to Piet. Or I gave it to Lindy rather. Let's say she said, I gave it to the line manager. And the line manager says, no, but you didn't. Make sure that the signatures and the dates are there. That's when we can say, no, okay, no, Lebo did give it to Lindy. So Lindy, you are the responsible one because she signed that she handed back that receipt book to me as the line manager. Another thing that can happen sometimes is that Piet may not be at the specific pay point. Now there's another one, let's say Kwena is now going to receive the book on Piet's behalf. Then Kwena can sign there and the date out, but then the line manager needs to write a note to say this was received, or Kwena received it because Piet was absent or he was on sick leave. But then you must write a note why that signature is different from Piet's, and then also write the name of the person who received the book on Piet's behalf. Okay, now the line manager has received all the books back, they've signed, and now the line manager is going back to head office. Or it could be that the line manager now sends a driver to head office to return those books. Okay, now let's say, for example, I'm giving this to another driver. Me as the line manager gives this to another driver. The driver then needs to check that all the books are there. The driver then signs, write the name of the driver as well as the signature and the date that the driver received these books from the line manager to take it back to head office. This driver then goes back to head office and then take these books back to Maggie, right? And then Maggie will sign that she received it back from this person, the driver, or it could be the line manager again, and she will then make a copy of the final document where everyone has now signed, and the line manager can now also file that document to show that the whole loop has now been completed for that pay point period. Okay, so this is the one scenario. There's another scenario as well. So remember, this is where the line manager came to fetch the books, but let's say, for example, a driver needs to come to head office and take these books in and deliver it to Burgersfort. Okay, so the driver again, Maggie, will complete all of these information. The driver comes to head office, he checks to see that all the books are there. He will then put in the date, his name and signature, and off he now goes to Burgersfort because he needs to take it to Burgersfort. At Burgersfort, there is a person who will receive it. In this example, there's a Miriam Makeba that said she received all the books. She will then sign the specific area where her signature is, her name, and she will also write in the name of the branch as well as the date. Now what's going to happen is the Pichai and Lebo will now come and fetch these books from Miriam at Burgersfort. Miriam needs to make sure that Piet sign and Lebo sign and write in the date. When pay point is over, then Miriam needs to contact Piet and Lebo and make sure that they bring it back in again and they sign now that they have given it back. Now Miriam hands this over to a driver at Burgersfort to take it back to head office. Okay, so Miriam now signs on this side to say, yes, I have now received all the books back again, and now I need to send it to Burgersfort, but I acknowledge first that I received all the books. And then Miriam will then sign and write again the branch name and hand it over to the driver. The driver checks to see that all the books are there. The driver then puts in the date and write his name and surname and sign. And now the driver is going back to head office, where he will then hand it to Maggie. Maggie will then sign that she received it, give her signature and the date, and then she will make a copy and she will keep the original, and you can keep, the last person can keep a copy to say that the whole loop has been closed, and the last person can then take it back to the Burgersfort branch where they can file that copy of that specific form. I hope this makes sense. I hope you understand the two different ways of completing this form. Please, if there's any questions, contact the training department and we will assist you with completing these forms or clear anything that you do not understand. I will now take you to the second form for the interbranch transfers of these books. Thank you.